2, 1, and we are live. Welcome everybody to Marshall Way Network, and we are here with our 5th episode. We're really looking forward to it today because our 5th episode, we have some special guests that will be participating today. I'll be introducing those here momentarily. And I just wanted to remind everyone that's on the live show right now, right below the video, you'll see an area where you can actually type in and chat and ask questions. I encourage you to go ahead and get logged in right away so that you can participate in the live action of the show. So let me tell you a little bit about our show today. We're going to be discussing nutrition for a healthy life and longevity in your training. And today, one of our special guests happens to be a certified sports nutritionist, and I'm going to introduce him first, and then I'll just explain some of the others that are on here as well. We have Mr. Jordan Joy, and he's from Denver, Colorado. He is currently a full-time research coordinator for the MusclePharm Sports Science Institute. He is a certified sports nutritionist and a certified strength coach. And he has his BS in exercise science from the University of Tampa and a master's in applied nutrition from Northeastern University. And currently he's pursuing his PhD in human performance with Concordia University in Chicago. And I'm really honored to have him here today. Notice, and he was willing to come on and help us. Not only that, I was reading some of his publications today. He has over 60 national and regional published abstracts and manuscripts for International Society of Sports Nutrition and for the National Strength and Conditioning Association. So we're honored to have you here today. Let me go ahead and get you started, and then what I'll do today, rather than what we've done in past episodes, is I will introduce each person as they come in. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Joy. Welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. So as far as sports nutrition and trends, what I'm seeing more lately, now that paleo craze is starting to taper off, is really with sports supplements. I'm seeing a lot of supplements becoming more household name, and while it was just protein before, with whey proteins and soy proteins being popular and being available commercially for families in bulk amounts such as with Costco, I'm now seeing this with more specialized products like pre-workouts and creatine and other products that we're buying in bulk in Costco, Sam's Club, and those other ones that are just entering the household, that are being used by mom and pop and the general population. And I really think that's a great step for everybody to reduce that stigma that supplements aren't necessary in the diet, or they aren't for everybody. They are for everybody. And they can help all different types of athletes, not just bodybuilders and not just those that are to attain a muscular physique or a lean physique. They can be used for numerous different things, such as increasing performance, whether that's strength performance, power performance, or endurance. And a lot of those stigmas come just from media headlines that are a few seldom cases that people might abuse them, or they take them improperly. They take them with other things that they shouldn't be taking. But supplements, really, they just come from food. They're all food derived, and we just take those ingredients and we isolate them out from food, and we take them in their most efficacious dose. So, for example, creatine is found in red meat, but you can't eat that much red meat where you're obtain an efficacious dose of creatine to where it's going to increase strength and increase power output. However, we can isolate that out. You can take 5 grams a day. It's very easy. It's cheap to make, and it's easy to obtain now that it's commercially available and you can buy it in bulk. So for foods that you should eat for generating stamina and strength, obviously you can take creatine, but you can also eat those foods that contain it, such as red meat and dairy products. There's also other supplements such as nitrates and caffeine. Nitrates are found in beets, and you can eat beets or take beetroot juice. And actually, beetroot juice is available in an amount that has an efficacious dose of nitrates. And nitrates actually reduce the oxygen cost of exercise, so it'll increase your stamina. It does that actually by reducing the energy cost of every muscle contraction. So with every muscle contraction, you're actually burning less energy. You save more for future contractions. You can essentially perform longer without using up your energy stores. And caffeine, similarly, is able to reduce oxygen consumption. It's able to prolong exercise by reducing your feelings of fatigue. And you find that obviously with coffee. But even a better source is green tea, which actually has a lot of other beneficial ingredients, such as antioxidants like EGCG you may have heard of. And those are great for the same purposes also, to keep you healthy and increase longevity. And caffeine is also great for those who want to slim down. Caffeine increases your metabolic rate and also increases your reliance on fats as fuel. And fats as fuel, I want to touch on a little bit. Fats as fuel, they aren't to be demonized anymore. It's coming around slowly in the scientific community that fats are, they're an essential part of the diet. There's essential fatty acids, there's essential amino acids, which are found in protein, but there's no such thing as essential carbohydrate yet. We see carbohydrates preached almost as a part of a healthy diet. However, they're not essential in the diet. So one thing I want to especially emphasize, such as like with omega-3s, they're healthy fatty acids, of course, but there's a great study actually from 1996 that came by Sedosis and colleagues, and it found that fats were actually only hard to metabolize when they are in the presence of carbohydrates. The carbohydrates essentially prohibited the fat from being metabolized by your cells for energy, and carbohydrates were the preferred energy source. But reduction of carbohydrates is a great way for you to slim down and be leaner and to make weight if you're participating in a weight-restricted sport. And this is a tactic that's been used time and time again. However, people use the reduction of carbohydrates as their sole means to get there, and they're already eating a low-fat diet. So they end up really reducing their metabolism greatly in that. So there's it's called ketogenic dieting. You've heard of ketones in disease states. However, they're produced more from disease states that are negatively affecting kidneys and then thus producing these ketones. However, ketones in this sense are used as fuel. They're actually very beneficial and used as fuel as opposed to these carbohydrates, and we get them also from our fat metabolism. However, carbohydrates still are very important for athletes since they are the preferred energy source. Although we only need them while we're exercising. The rest of the day, they're relatively unnecessary. We can get all of our energy from our fats and our protein sources. So what do we take away from that is we take, our carbohydrates just when we need them. And since they are slowly providing energy, we take in our carbohydrates during exercise, post-exercise, when we really need them. And then that will help you progress to a leaner state. Does anybody have any questions on anything I've covered so far, or anything they want to bring up as a concern?
I did have a question come through here. Thank you so much. This has been really enlightening so far. One of the questions was, you had mentioned about carbohydrates, and there hasn't been a study done, if we heard you right, that you actually need them in your diet. Is that what I heard you say?
There has been some letters published that suggest that they are not essential, that we don't need them. We produce them ourselves. We make them from our fats and our other sources. So it's been proposed that we can generate all that we need internally. Um, but like for athletes, of course, these can be very important and affect performance. If you're of low energy, and you can use these carbohydrates as a rapid energy source, especially in high intensity sports where you're going, all out for extended periods of time that are under about 5 minutes before you transition into a primary fat source.
I did have, and I know you touched just a little bit on it, but one of the thoughts was, is there a difference in diet that a male versus a female should strive to eat more of certain foods or less of certain foods in order to have energy and stamina and or weight loss?
Generally, I make the same recommendations for men and women. There are some slight differences in diet for men and women, obviously amount, because women are generally smaller. Um, and there's also a difference with iron, especially contact sports, where you're either being struck or thrown, or even with running, just the impact on the ground creates a need for iron, and especially for women, obviously they need more iron, and as well as calcium and vitamin D to help with calcium bone mineral density later in life. So that's especially for longevity. Um, they greatly benefit from iron, calcium, and vitamin D. You can get those from iron from red meat, calcium obviously from dairy, and vitamin D um, from dairy as well.
So what about those out there that are listeners that are vegan or vegetarians? What would you recommend for those folks who, don't want to eat red meat or any meat for that matter?
That's a great question. We can find iron also as well as calcium in our green leafy vegetables. This could be kale, broccoli, celery, those similar types. Vitamin D, it's really mostly our great sources are our animal sources. I'm trying to think of one for vitamin D that's not an animal source. You can get a lot of sunlight, that helps. Doesn't have anything to do with diet, but it definitely helps.
And what about as we age? Are there certain nutrients and things that we need as we get older? Like, for instance, in arthritis and things like that. Are there things, foods, or things you recommend in order to help alleviate that?
So arthritis is actually inflammation. And as far as dietary sources for preventing inflammation, some things that are really great are some spices. Like with curry, we see turmeric and you have curcumin, as well as ginger, are really great sources for fighting inflammation, and a lot of other health benefits as well, such as your blood lipids, and they actually can affect your sensitivity to pain as well.
That's great. Does anyone from our panel have any questions? Mr. Roach, I see you're speaking, but we can't hear you. All right. I have another question while we're waiting to see if, Mr. Roach, if you want to type something in, I can ask it too. So the next question I had was, Okay, so describe your typical diet. Obviously, you're a nutritionist. And I think a lot of people are curious when you know all this information, how has it affected
I'll be
you and your diet?
one second
Describe
while I
your
turn these
typical.
lights back on. They turn off. They're on a timer. I'm really sorry.
No problem.
The question, I
You look
believe.
like you might be frozen.
Okay.
I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay. Was I had to go switch those lights on real quick? Was it the question was what was my diet?
Yes.
Um, so as I mentioned before, I'm a big fan of ketogenic dieting. Anybody that knows me knows I'm a big fan of ketogenic dieting. Um, so typically, what I follow now is right now I'm actually trying to gain and maintain my weight where it is. So what I'm doing presently is I'll eat primarily fats and protein Monday through Friday, actually till Friday night, and then I'll start to incorporate more carbohydrates. I kind of do pretty much whatever I want for the next 48 hours until about Sunday afternoon until I start going back to a more strict diet. Um, also, all comes back to training. So this also is related to my training patterns, and I train about 6 days a week usually, as long as I don't have anything going on where I need to go out of town or anything like that. Um, I also have some carbohydrates after I work out. Um, I also, even if you do not adopt a ketogenic diet or high fat diet, it's still very beneficial for you. Um, can be, at least, it's a hypothesis for you to separate your carbohydrates. As I mentioned before, they can inhibit fat metabolism, and also to have a low carbohydrate breakfast. There's some great research coming out of my old lab from Jacob Wilson and Ryan Lowry, who are exploring this very in depth. Um, and we believe presently that uh, a high fat breakfast will, uh, we're calling it metabolic programming. It'll allow you to be more flexible throughout the day with uh, the things you eat. It'll have less of an impact on the outcomes, your body composition, and your performance. It'll make you better able to um, metabolize those nutrients that you eat in any composition.
Okay, so describe a high fat breakfast in your terms. What would you eat as a high fat breakfast?
Well, the classic is bacon and eggs, of course. Um, I also like to incorporate sausage sometimes as an alternative. And then if I'm in a hurry, I usually do a protein shake with a lot of heavy cream and some peanut butter.
That's great. So what about cholesterol? Does this affect any of your cholesterol by having the high fats like that?
So the great thing about ketogenic dieting is it's been researched almost exclusively in diabetics, people with cancer, and metabolic syndrome, where it's a combination of diabetes and heart disease. And what they find, they do this because it actually reduces your blood lipids and your cholesterol. It actually has been shown to help with all of these markers of preventative disease based on diet. Um, and I think it'll catch on a little bit more once the American Heart Association and other organizations are able to put aside that they may have been wrong for a long time. A lot of the data previously that we base our current nutritional guidelines on is um, based on correlational studies, and correlation doesn't necessarily equal causation. So just because these individuals were maybe consuming more saturated fat, it doesn't mean that necessarily that saturated fat is to blame. And also, in addition to the blood lipids, your cholesterol levels. Um, it's beneficial for your insulin levels and your blood glucose levels.
This is all very interesting. A lot of this is stuff that I think the general public is not aware of. And I'm curious if anyone else from our panel has any questions that have not been addressed. Sam, go ahead.
Yeah. I had a question. Am I on, or there we go? Does this mean, Jordan, that we can eat fat and stay thin?
You can absolutely eat steak. I just don't eat steak with potatoes. Steak and then green vegetables. You can put some butter on there. I actually make a really great cream reduction sauce. It's about a half a stick of butter, a half a cup of cream, and some blue cheese, and it's great on steak.
Corey, did you have a question?
Yeah, I know I'm kind of speaking for a minority here, but people like myself, and I think Mr. Roach had mentioned on another day, having a similar issue. You have those people out there kind of like us who doesn't really matter what we eat. We have the opposite issue some people have where being underweight, under a healthy weight kind of comes into play. And I know many times I've been told, well, eat more meats, eat more fatty foods, things like that. And I find that when I do it, when I try to eat that and I try to keep my calorie count up, I know one of my biggest problems is I don't eat enough calories. I tend to start feeling sick to my stomach. Is there something else maybe I should be drinking or something that could counteract those effects?
One great thing, actually, opposite of what I've been saying, carbohydrates actually can have stimulatory effect on appetite. So where you can eat more carbohydrates before you feel full. Um, However, like similar to what I'm doing now, the diet I described that I'm currently doing is called actually the anabolic diet. It's based on one of the smartest people probably ever in this field, Mauro Di Pasquale. He's a medical doctor. He has several books on dieting for different purposes. This one happens to be for increasing weight, increasing muscle mass. And like I said, it's ketogenic, high fat, high protein, very low carbohydrate, 5 days a week, and then you just go and have whatever you want pretty much on the weekends. I know a couple other people who have tried this and they've had success with it. Right now, just actually yesterday, I weighed myself. I was 210 pounds, and I was up from about 200 just about at the beginning of this new year. Also, though, if the problem really is just trying to put that weight on, you have trouble keeping it on, or you have trouble maybe with being too satiated, or just being sick from eating too much. I don't know if there's anything natural that can enhance appetite. There are some supplements that claim they do. I've never actually tested them myself, and I'm not sure of the ingredients they use. But there are appetite-enhancing supplements out there. I know they exist, but I can't name specifically what these finished products are or the ingredients in them. I haven't researched those myself.
Okay, so you're way over my head here, so this may sound a little bit like a dumb question. But for someone like in my position, I know one of my things is I have an extremely high metabolism. I metabolize food very quickly. Is there a way, or is there something you could be eating or something you add to your diet to slow down your metabolism a little bit?
Your two biggest things that are going to influence metabolism is your diet and your level of exercise. I'm sure you're very active, and I'm sure you don't want to stop being very active. So the other side is going to be your diet, and your metabolism will slow as you eat less. However, you will lose weight during those initial phases. There isn't any one single thing that you might be able to add to keep weight on. I would, if I were working with you one-on-one, I would figure out currently what you're doing, and then go through and try and fill in some holes or change some things, where we can try to get you to eat more. One thing that could be helpful is just to focus on the things that you like to eat and eat them, and try to eat them in large quantities. Another thing could be if you're very busy with your training schedule, then of course you need to try and work in calories, work in food, whether it's with protein shakes, weight gaining shakes, just bars, granola bars, whatever it is. Whenever you're whenever you have a moment where you can sit and consume something, then you might try that as well.
This has been really great. I really appreciate you being on the call, Mr. Joy. And I wanted to see one last call, because Mr. Joy is actually going to be dropping off. He is a very busy man working towards his PhD, and we want to let him get back to that. So anyone that's listening right now, or you're watching the program, I'm checking the questions right now to see if there's anyone out there. We have several people watching right now. Actually, a lot of people watching. All right, I do not see any questions at this time. If any others come in, Mr. Joy, would you be opposed to me emailing some of them?
Absolutely open to that. I'd love to hear from you guys.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your evening for us. And we're going to go ahead and go on over to our next guest. And thanks again. I'll be in touch.
Thank you for having me. It was great to be on.
Thank you. That was very good.
Ms. Bortz, I do believe your speaker or your microphone is off.
Thank you very much. I didn't realize it was off. Thank you. So I want to go ahead and introduce Dr. Leach. He's actually not a guest, and he is going to be our next speaker this evening. And Dr. Leach is a retired dentist. For those of you who have not been on these episodes before, he also is a very esteemed martial artist, and his background is in a ninth dan in Shorin-ryu karate. A ninth dan, which is the ninth dan, if you're not familiar, is degrees. A ninth dan in Taekwondo, sixth dan in Shurate, a fourth dan in Kenjutsu and Iajutsu, and a third dan in Kyokushinkai. And he is currently a master instructor at Branson Karate in Branson, Missouri. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Leach.
Okay. Thank you, Vishon. First of all, I have a little bit of business to attend to here. This is a special note for Seth Lane. I know Seth isn't listening right now, but Seth, this shirt is for you. Seth is in a little guy in the United Kingdom. He's has combined immune deficiency disease, the bubble boy disease, and he has requested today that everybody across the internet wear yellow. So I have this on for Seth. Okay. Second, Mr. Jordan, I really enjoyed your information. I thought it was good, and I think it's very good to get that kind of information out. My expertise in nutrition is very slim, It sits on the other side of the fork, perhaps, and I don't claim any real expertise there. However, I have been involved for the last 30 years in the Harvard School of Public Health survey of health professionals. For 30 years, they've asked questions about many facets of our daily life, including dietary habits, in great detail. And the results of these have actually hit the national news. I also participated in the secondary dietary analysis that went on for a year. But for 1 week, we were required to literally write down everything we ate, the time we ate, what we ate, the brand of it, the amount down to the 1/10 of a gram. And we weighed this out. We discussed our whole diet with the nutritionist, and it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. But the important thing that I think I'd like to mention here is the purpose of such detailed studies, especially when it comes to diet and nutrition, is that they deal with facts. And it is important that we do deal with facts. Just because we believe something doesn't mean it's necessarily true. We have to make sure that within this framework of belief that if we're going to do our own research in that, we have to be very careful about what we look at. The internet information can be very biased, especially in the area of supplements and nutrition. It also can be from a few kooks on the web that give off a lot of information, and there's no backing to it. And you do need scientific backing to make some claims about. Am I lost in here? Or okay, I'm good. You need to have some scientific backing, a good study before you can say either this is good or this is bad, and this is what you should be eating, and this is what you shouldn't be eating. I think that's what Mr. Joy is. Okay. I was getting some interference from somewhere. Am I still on okay? Okay, good. Also, a lot of times when people go on the internet to look up facts, they go in and look at sites that will simply validate their personal belief, and this doesn't make it true. I see Michelle on there. Hi, Michelle. I think we lost you. Anyway, I wasn't referring to you, Michelle. So we have to make sure that we don't have an agenda if we're going to go on and look for things. And we have, if you go on the internet, you have to look at both sides of nutrition facts. I would give you two examples of two ends of the spectrum. One end was a study done in Great Britain, and it was published in the Medical Association Lancet, and it was well accepted, and it was on autism and how our immunization was causing autism. And the physician came to the United States, and when he went online, or when he went around the United States, he got a lot of followers. But what happened was that many of the people that had read his studies, many of the scientists, could not reproduce his information. And when they took a closer look at it, the study was, in fact, a fraud. And he lost his license and was asked to leave the United States, and he lost his license in the United Kingdom. So we do have some problems in some of those areas. And I have one final example of a patient of mine, and this does involve nutrition, because I walked into the room and I looked at her, and her skin was orange. And I looked at her and I said, "What's going on?" And she says, "Oh, I'm going to such and such," and she says I'm low on beta carotene or something like that, and that I should be taking more beta carotene, and I've been on all of these supplements, and I'm eating all of this stuff, and I'm doing all of these things. She says, "What do you think of that?" And I said, "Well, I just have one question. What color should your skin be? It shouldn't be orange." Uh, uh, she's under the care and taking a dietary supplement that was actually doing harm to her. So we have to be a little careful when we look at diet and we look at things. And I think people like Mr. Joy have an excellent book on what's going on in the diet. And they're using studies and things that are well done, and they allow for us to get good information, proper information that will better our health. So that's about all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Leach. That was very helpful as well, and you always provide such value to these programs. So we have another guest that I've invited on this program, and this happens to be somebody I've known for a very long time, and her name is Michelle Tafoya, and she's based in Texas. And Michelle experience with nutrition. She is not a licensed nutritionist, but she has a lot of experience. I'm trying to pull up her bio here. She sent it to me, and then it got pushed down in my my email. If you give me a second, I can pull it right back up, and I will be able to read that for you, or I can even, oh, here it is. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about Michelle. Michelle, first of all, she's a mother. She has a 4-year-old son. She's a massage therapy. She's excited to begin her practice in lymphatic massage and parasympathetic massage to promote wellness. She is in San Antonio, Texas, and she became aware of her passion for health and nutrition as well as in massage therapy out of her experience with her breast cancer. She was inspired by her studies, by her mother's studies on whole foods, natural medicine, homeopathy, and the holistic approach to optimal health. And her desire is to promote wellness through the gift of massage therapy and nutrition education. And I thought she would add another facet to this world that we are visiting tonight on nutrition. So with that, Michelle, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you.
Thank you, Vashon. I'm sorry for the delay in getting on here, trying to find the link and everything, and hopefully I didn't distract you too much from Jordan and what he was saying. But I was listening. Thank you for having me on here, and I'm not a licensed nutritionist, but I have had a lot of experience and sharing what was my mom's passion when she was still here. She tried to teach me these things a lot earlier in life as a teen, and of course I was not very interested in it at that time, and some of the things were either I didn't think would taste good or just look gross. I just was not interested. But in December of 1999, when she found out that she had some signs of that the doctors are concerned about, a lump that they believe with her history of having Hodgkin's disease and just a low immune system, that she had cancer, really changed my outlook about nutrition and what we do for our bodies. And even more so after she passed away in April of 2008, I got pregnant with my son, and nutrition and just overall health and wellness became a top priority for me, more because I definitely want to myself be here, be healthy, and live as long as I can be to be here for my son, so he would not have to experience losing a parent and that devastation, but also because I want him to be healthy. I want to teach him good habits so he can live a healthy life, and then so on with his children, the legacy to come after him. So really the things that I believe or that are important to me that I focus on is just really being aware of what feels right for my body, and in just educating myself. You get a lot of different opinions and a lot of studies out there, and what the latest fad is, and those kinds of things. But I really just kind of focus on the things that are simple. We know what basically is good to put in our bodies and the things that are not. But what I really like to focus on is just, what the input is. That I do prefer organic foods to not have the pesticides on them. Really big on the non-GMOs, since that is becoming, very popular in that message getting out to people. Also, I love juicing. My mom was very big on juicing and getting that nutrition kind of at a cellular level, and kind of allowing that to be absorbed a lot faster than when we just eat foods, and it takes that time to break it down, and sometimes our bodies don't absorb those nutrients as they might, when we eat. And then also one thing that she did teach me about was food combinations. And there are some combinations of foods, like your meat and potatoes, just certain things that slow down digestion, and they do disturb the process of your body being able to absorb those key nutrients from what you are eating. So really, I feel like if I kind of at least cover that, where I know that the source of my food coming in is good, definitely trying to avoid foods that have harmful chemicals with pesticides and those sorts of things. And the combinations, I feel like, we do supplement sometimes with some vitamins. I have recently found that I was low on vitamin D, which I feel like I don't get outside enough. I'm lacking lots of sunshine. But, really just being aware and what feels good, not, a whole bag of donuts, that might feel good to some people, but, what your body is telling you feels good, what feels right, and that, is a healthy choice. And so that's really, a lot of what my mom taught me with nutrition was just, raw foods, whole foods, and the proper combinations of those foods. And she's big on juicing. And anytime that I find that I'm having, coming down with a cold or something like that, things that I remember her telling me, like putting garlic and ginger and using a base of like maybe carrot and apple, getting in greens. I put a lot of greens. That works with my son because he doesn't realize it, but he is getting his vegetables. He's kind of a meat and potatoes kid, but I sneak those vegetables in there in a smoothie, and they get in there just fine. But yeah, it is very important, what we do put into our bodies, and that will have an effect on our health. And here recently, I've also I tried the ketogenic diet some years back and didn't really have success with it because I felt like my blood sugar maybe went kind of low. I would get headaches, but I've recently had a friend who is a nutritionist tell me about eating for your blood type. So with my blood type kind of being a lot of people have blood type O, I've kind of studied more on that type and what is considered, more the oldest blood types, more the hunter-gatherer, and the food combinations that would promote better nutrition for someone with my blood type. And that actually seems to make a lot of sense for me as I'm thinking of the foods that I don't feel very energized when I eat, like breads and carbohydrates are really kind of my enemy. And those are one of the things that my blood type, unless it's like the Ezekiel, like the sprouted grain bread, is okay, but all other breads it says to keep away, and it makes a lot of sense because that typically creates weight gain for me. So that's just something that I'm kind of studying right now, and I feel has kind of been brought into my path that might work for me. It might not work for other people, and I know there's still some learning to do on my part, as well as whether that really works for people or not, but it makes sense to me. So I'm checking that out. But overall, I just, what I experienced with my mom with her cancer and a lot of the people that I came into contact with when she was in the hospital quite a bit, it just really made such an impact on me about, preserving and really being mindful of our health. And a lot of that in fighting disease, I believe, comes with what we put into our bodies and in our environment as well. So that focus on nutrition is very important and obviously vital for a long, healthy life.
Great. Thank you so much, Michelle, for being on the call today. And
Sure.
you had mentioned you're currently doing the blood type, diet by blood type.
Yes.
Can you just share the book that you've been reading? Because it might be something people want to look into. Obviously, you want to do your research, but we like to bring all aspects of nutrition into today's hangout and
Absolutely.
episode.
Absolutely. The books I picked up from the nutrition, the health food store, have a friend of mine that she's actually right outside our neighborhood, and so she suggested this, and I picked up the books for each blood type because I thought, man, this is information. If someone, has a different blood type than type O or myself, I'd love to have that information ready for them. So these little books, they weren't very much, but you can probably find them online as well. Dr. Peter J. De Adamo, I don't know, I'm gonna mess up his name. De Adamo. It says blood type O, food, beverage, and supplement list, but he's known for the Eat Right for Your Type. And there is a website. I can probably I'll put it in the comments here in a moment so people could go to that link. But it sets out, it's a pretty neat site, and it does set out more specifically for each blood type. And they even have some PDF downloads that are more specific, kind of just a quick reference guide to your personal blood type, and it explains, what their theory is or the principle behind eating for your blood type, and what the biochemical reaction that takes place with the foods that we eat in our personal blood type. So it's very interesting, and I still have a lot more studying to do, but I have gone through the list and looked at the foods that it's recommended for my blood type and the ones that tell you to keep away, and trying to implement that in baby steps, obviously, because you can't absorb all this information and put it all into practice at one time. But seeing that definitely the foods that stand out to me that it tells you to avoid are ones that I do know when I do eat them, I don't feel too good. I either am, lacking energy or get headaches, or just I feel like different reactions, or my body is rejecting that food. So, but I'll definitely share the link to the website for this in the comments, and it's very interesting.
Michelle, I did have a question for you.
Sure.
Everybody can hear me now, right? Okay, good. We're on the air. I've heard some people talking about the benefits of eating food that is local to where you were born and where you were raised. Have you heard much about that on that topic by any chance, or come across that?
No, I've never heard about eating from foods from where you were raised. I have heard at least about with local honey, and dealing with allergens. I know my pediatrician is pretty cautious about what she gives her patients and children of a certain age and under. Obviously, babies are not supposed to have honey, but my child, he's 4 years old, so for I guess the principle of it is that local pollens and those allergens here in the local honey is beneficial to help you actually fight or build that immunity to what is in your environment locally. But that's the only thing I've ever heard really is that as it relates to honey, but not other foods, or I don't know if you mean literally from the area that you were born or from the area that you reside, but the only place I've ever really, or the only thing I've ever really heard that about is local honey, which I do keep that stocked. It seems to actually be works pretty well. And the principle there is just to have a little spoonful of it over a course of time, just to kind of get your body built up, that immunity to the pollen or the allergens in the air locally, and to kind of give you a little bit more of a stronger immune system to having those allergy attacks.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, sure.
I do like my honey myself too. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I did want to say that before Mr. Joy left, he texted me and said that there was a question about if you don't eat meat, how do you get your vitamin D? And he said one of the best sources other than sunlight is mushrooms. So if you don't have enough sunlight, you don't have enough vitamin D in your diet, he suggested eating mushrooms.
Yes, when I was in Taiwan living at the monastery, we didn't eat any meat, of course, and it was a very strict diet, and they had a lot of mushrooms and all kinds of different mushrooms that we ate every day.
All right, well, I'm going to check one last time to see if we have any questions that have come in from our live viewers. Okay. It looks like we have one, but it's for Mr. Joy, so I'll him, and then I'll post his response here in the messages.
Hey, Vishal.
All right. Yes.
I did want to share, this is something else that I've been researching, but when you were talking about mushrooms, there is a particular mushroom that I've heard of recently, and like I said, I'm still doing research on, but it's supposed to be very potent for immune system support, and I believe it's chaga, C-H-A-G-A, and it's a type of mushroom, and it's supposed to be really good. I think a lot of people that are doing some natural or supplemental type therapy with their cancer treatment as well are looking into this and have found that it's been very helpful. So I don't know, I just want to throw that in there. Anytime I hear something that is kind of come to the forefront that is anti-cancer related, I'm all over it. I don't want anyone to ever have to suffer or experience cancer. It's a horrible disease, and it affects people. It's not discriminate at all, and it's so sad. And I just really, I think if I had a mission here on Earth, that is to get rid of cancer somehow, find that cure. But definitely, to help promote the positives, stress reduction with the massage therapy is why I feel a strength to that, because stress is a trigger for so many things in our body that affects our health. But yeah, I would love a world without cancer, so I'm all over that. But I'll maybe be able to share that on a future hangout, what I learn about that particular mushroom.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts from Mr. Rose or Dr. Leach before we close?
Yeah, I had one thing. It didn't really get brought up. It does have to do with nutrition. I'm not normally someone who has any authority to speak on nutrition at all. I don't eat necessarily well. I do eat local foods. Me and my wife, we grow and hunt pretty much 60-70% of the food that we eat through the year. But one thing that I am huge on is making sure to always stay hydrated and drink enough water. And I think that's something that a lot of people tend to forget about or forsake a little bit, because there's all these other drink options out there that seem far more satisfying, and some of them are quite good for you. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't just drink water all the time. I like some green tea. Every once in a while I'll drink a pop, though I try to avoid caffeine now. I had a bit of a dependency to it for a few years that led to some dehydration issues. But I think one of the things a lot of people forget is not all drinks are hydrating. Some, even some drinks that are good for you, do dry out your body a little bit. And I know this isn't something that maybe necessarily good to bring up on this show, but I know someone brought up this concept to me the other day, kind of made me laugh, and They said, well, I don't understand how people can say alcohol dries you out when, excuse me for saying it, we're talking excited, when your urine becomes clear. And really the explanation for that is not that it is hydrating you, it's that it's drawing the water out of you even faster, and that's why it's happening like that. But alcohol isn't the only thing that does that. A lot of other drinks you consume do that, including some types of juice and things like that. And I'm not saying don't drink juice. Juice is great for you. I love juice. But you have to drink your water too. And a lot of people go straight to sports drinks. I always talk about Gatorade, for example. A lot of people love that, and they say, well, I drink this to stay hydrated. I have people that bring them to class all the time. And I say, you know, the sugar and the potassium contents in that actually do dry you out a little bit. The point is the electrolytes, you know, get your cells prepared to rehydrate faster than normal, but you're not going to get extremely hydrated just drinking that drink. You got to drink that and then drink water after it, so that your cells are prepared. The cells, excuse me, are prepared to take in the hydration from those other fluids. But I know you can have, from personal experience, you can have a ton of issues related to dehydration, a ton of health issues related to it, and never even realize that's your problem. It was a problem with me for multiple years before it landed me in the hospital, and I never realized it because I was drinking water every day. But the issue is for my weight, I should be drinking about 70 ounces of water a day, and I was drinking between 10 and 20 a day for 5 years, and also drinking other things that dehydrated me. And so that led to me having a lot of health issues later in life. So what I do is I tell my guys, have your pop, have whatever it is you want to drink, that you need to drink. Just make sure you get enough water in there as well. And I mean water. I don't mean sports drinks. I mean water, the stuff that your body's made up of. You can get it filtered if you want, whatever. But make sure you drink all the water you need before you allow yourself that extra something at the end of that. That's all I had to add.
Thanks, Corey. That's a really good point too. I mean, absolutely. We all need water, and I'm surprised we didn't mention it earlier. So I'm glad you brought that up. So with that said, we're getting close here to the hour, and I just wanted to thank everyone for being on today, especially our guest. I appreciate you coming out. And we will be having our next one, and I had it in front of me, and then I shut the page. Our next one is on April the 10th. I was looking at my calendar there. So we'll have our next episode April the 10th, and we're going to be discussing physical training as an aspect of improving your and stamina, and how you can incorporate that into your martial arts training and life. So I know these guys are going to have a lot of ideas on that. Mr. Osborne brought that one up. So we'll make sure that the next episode, we're going to have a lot of really great tips. And if you're an instructor out there and you're watching this today, then make sure you're on that next one, because you're going to really get some good tips from it. So have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks, everyone.